You're listening to the Teach Better Talk podcast featuring expert educators eager to share progressive tactics to reach more students. Teach Better Talk is created by teachers and fueled by passion. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 232 of Teach Better Talk podcast. My name is Ray Hughes, and I am with the most irritating co-host of all time, Mr. Jeffrey Raymond Gargis. How are you, Jeff?
Really quick question, then we're going to get right into what we're going to talk about. But what part of that is what worries you that you feel like you have to have the script up? Because, it's your name, a number, the title of the podcast, and then me.
Guys, this was the first time ever in the history of Teach Better Talk podcast that I did that intro without reading it off.
She's like, can I just do it without it? I'm like, you've done 231. I think you can handle it.
You know what? We're being a little too authentic right now.
If you're on YouTube watching, you can see she went, I am, and she did this because she was like, I think it's Ray Hewart. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's who I am.
Guys, it's I'm telling you, Jeff, we're being so real right now. People are in their cars shaking their head like, oh no, they've lost their minds.
Yeah, this is true.
Whatever, but I just want to, on the record, I did the intro and it didn't sound any different until I added myself, right?
It sounded just as bad as it always is.
Whoa.
Anyway, all right, so let's talk really quick. We got something cool going on right now. I want you to just kind of give us the rundown. So we just started pushing it out and talking about it today, and it's our gift to grid. That's not what we were talking about, is it? Were we talking about that? We talking about two different things.
Well, let's just
we
talk
said
about
gift to grid, then we flipped it to daily drop. There's so much going on, Ray. What are we supposed to talk about?
Whoa,
let's do gift to grid. Do it. Let's do gift to grid because that's super cool.
Okay, it's super cool. We can also talk about both. It's not the end of the world, but our listeners know. Our listeners know Daily Drop-In is going on because they get notifications every day that there's a new episode. Guys, we've been publishing a Daily Drop-In Monday through Friday, plus in our normal episodes. So if you know the Daily Drop-In's going on, sorry. I don't know what to tell you.
If you're still subscribed, if you're still listening at this point, thank you. We love you. All right.
Moving on to Gift to Grid. Gift to Grid is a brand new thing. We just started December 7th. This is brand new this week as you're listening to this podcast episode. Here's what actually went down. We connected to these all-star educators that created on their own a beautiful nonprofit. And when we connected, we were like, nonprofits are cool. Let's learn what their mission is, what's their goal. And truly, it was like the most simple and fabulous mission ever. Their mission is to just create a safe space for all educators to have access to strong content to share with their students. I mean, I like to joke that it's like a teachers pay teachers equivalent, but it's free. It's a nonprofit. It's created and managed by educators, and everyone I know, all of my friends, all of my colleagues, and the entire Teach Better family shares on it. So in my mind, it's like better than ever. I love that this is a nonprofit that's really driven by this mission, this why of wanting to make sure that all students have access to incredible resources and giving teachers a space to collaborate and share their tips and tricks. So we decided as a Teach Better team, because we love this concept of, safe spaces for educators to get cool resources and tools, to partner with this nonprofit and host a Gift to Grid campaign for the month of December, encouraging each and every person in our network, whether you are a classroom teacher, an administrator, whether you're in the US, in Canada, in Australia, Germany, we don't mind where you live. Every educator share one resource on this platform, educationblueprint.org. It is so simple. You log in, it's like 3 clicks, educationblueprint.org. Just log in super fast. Uploading a resource takes about 46 seconds. I did it earlier today to test it out. And honestly, it can be anything. It could be an entire unit, like a grid if you're using that mastery framework we talk about, the grid method. It can be something super small. I'm planning on uploading the mini lesson I did this morning with my 6th graders. It can be an idea. It can be a website you think is really useful. It can be a book you read that you loved. Find one resource. Be a part of our Gift to Grid movement. It's going to be so fabulous, Jeff. I'm so excited we did this.
I love it. Everything over educationblueprint.org for all of that. Speaking of awesomeness, let's talk about this. This episode is so fantastic. I'm so pumped for everyone to hear this because our guest tonight, Brad Hughes, we are such fans. He's been on our network for a while. We love him. He's so active. He's so genuine. He's so just positive and fun and downright brilliant that it's just such a great mix. And we had such a good time with him too. So Brad is a elementary principal up in Ontario, Canada. I forget what he said. It was 25 years of experience in education. So much to offer. A few different positions underneath his belt. Just truly loves what he does and the reason he does it. And this episode, I'm telling you, will not disappoint. Ray, I know you're a fan, so you can just shake your head and say, yes, I'm a fan, and we'll consider that your contribution to this. And let's get right into it. Episode 232 with Brad Hughes.
Hey, what's up, podcast? It's Jeff. Don't worry. We're going to get right back into the episode, but I want to make sure you were aware of a brand new course that we have out in the Teach Better Academy right now, Leading by Empowering. This is the first course by our good friend and our Director of Leadership and Development, Dave Schmittou. Within this course, he covers a lot of stuff. It really goes through a self-reflective journey of figuring out who you are as a leader. He talks about opening the door for difficult conversations with your staff. He talks about becoming more knowable than knowledgeable, and continues on about relationships, risk-taking, celebrations, leadership, and growth. It is over at teachbetteracademy.com. If you already have the $9 a month membership, it'll be in your My Courses dashboard now. Otherwise, head over to teachbetteracademy.com. Use the code PODCASTTALK to save 25% right now on Leading by Empowering. All right, let's get back to the episode.
All right, we are here. We are chatting with Brad Hughes. And Brad, oh man, we were just talking about how excited we are to have you on. And Ray was, again, just trying to figure out how you weren't on the podcast yet. You are so active in our community. You're so involved in our community. We love you, and like you touch so many people. And I always laugh because I feel like every time you go live with us and stuff, there's like 6 to 50 Brad Hughes mic drop moments, and so I'm really excited for a few of those to come here in the podcast. Not to put any pressure on you, but
did you
anyway,
6 to 50 is that range appropriate, listeners? I don't know that works.
If you're looking at the appropriate ranges to use when calculating the number or potential number of Brad Hughes mic drop moments, 6 to 50 is completely accurate. Trust me.
Brad, I would have gone 6 to 55, just so you know.
Oh, jeez. Here we go. Anyway,
I had trouble making my way to the microphone with all of these dropped mics around here on the floor. So I'm really grateful and excited to be here to begin with, but just making my way to the mic with all these mics around here, it's just crazy.
Well, Brad, before we get too far in, because we want to dive into your story and just learn more about you and chat with you and stuff. Man, how are you feeling right now? Other than crowded by all the mics.
I'm feeling really good. I mean, I'm so excited to connect with two people that I just love and admire so much. And the Teach Better team for me has always been about authenticity plus energy, and you guys exemplify that. So to have an opportunity to really reflect back what I do and why I do it to people I admire so much, and by extension to a network of people that energize me, that just fill my bucket daily. This is just a tremendous opportunity. And this is what you guys are all about, is opening opportunities up for people. So thanks for me, and thanks on behalf of everybody that the Teach Better team supports.
All right, we need to set the tone, listeners. You're about to hear an interview from Brad, who I truly believe is actually one of the funniest, personable, and smartest educators out there. Every time I hear him talk, I am laughing. I'm like, my mind is blown. I just want to give you a fair warning. You might want to listen to this podcast sitting down for this episode. I'm just letting you know, like, his example of being surrounded by microphones is exactly how funny he is. He is so awesome. But Brad, outside of the humor, outside of the love and appreciation you constantly share for people, I do want our first question to have our listeners get to know you even on a deeper level. What do you do for education? If somebody asked you, like, to describe yourself and all that you do, what would you typically say?
Ray, my day job is elementary school principal. I'm principal at Forest Hill Public School in Kitchener, Ontario, Canada. It's part of the Waterloo Region District School Board, and I've been in education for 25 years. So I was a classroom teacher for 16 years before I shifted over to school leadership. I made my way up as a French teacher, beginning in the primary grades and then junior and then into intermediate or middle school. And so I grew and graduated along with my French students. And along the way, I had the opportunity to teach middle school visual arts, as well as music, French, and special education. So those were my most recent teaching positions. This is my beginning my fourth year as building principal. I had 5.5 years as a vice principal before that. So education has been my passion. So first of all, I would say I'm an educator. I'm also a husband and a dad to two fantastic kids. I'm a devoted friend. I'm a cheerleader. I try to provide some comic relief. I'm an aspiring content creator. I'm a mentor. I'm a confidant. I'm an avid bowler. I love Disney, so I'm a Disney devotee. I fancy myself a bit of a handyman and a tinkerer. But above all, I'm an encourager, and I'm a champion of making things easier and better for other people.
Question, Brad. So do you speak fluent French then?
I do. My French is, I'd say, conversational to fluent. If we were to have a conversation in French, Jeff, you wouldn't mistake me for a native francophone. But I do speak and have taught French for a long time. I speak a little bit of German, and my Pig Latin is also spot on.
Well, if you and I had a conversation in French, actually, I would just assume you were saying everything properly, because I'm basically like Joey Tribbiani when it comes to French. So,
yeah.
I'm trying to think of how he says that. I don't even want to go there.
Anyway. Flippity, 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 flip, flip, flippity,
yes, exactly. Right, I think it's the exact word.
Yeah.
So there's a good chance at the end of this episode, I'm going to have you take us out, but do it in French, because I that would just be fun. I want to get into, and this is, you know this, you listen, you're connected with us, you know that I love talking about failure and how it's taught me so much, and hearing these stories, because I think these stories allow people to know that they're not alone when they struggle, but also to hear the different ways that people have not only come through failures and challenges, but also what they've taken away. I think is just really, really powerful. So can you share a story with us about a time that you've had a failure in your life? How did you get through that? And then what did you take away from that experience?
Jeff, it was actually fear of failure that's been the biggest challenge for me over the years. So as you said, everyone fails, everyone experiences setbacks, and everyone has times when you wish you could sort of wind back the clock and do a do-over. But for me, there was added anxiety over fear of failure. And so, not only owning my own responsibilities, within my work and my family life, within the weight of some pretty challenging circumstances, some things that, would probably cause anybody to feel stressed. But for me, it also meant carrying the emotional weight of people's responses, to who I was and the work I was doing. Perfectionism meant, for me, I was constantly trying to work to outwit all the possible ways something could go wrong. And I gave myself sort of the illusion of control. I tried to ensure that, no one was inconvenienced, no one was disappointed, no one was upset. So it's been overcoming the fear of failure, of letting other people down, of not knowing what to do or what decisions to make. That's been my journey. And I'd say we're all on this road at one time or another, especially as educators, because I'd say being an educator is among the most personal of professions. In so many ways, we are what we do. And when we do not do well as educators, we are not well. And so I'd say at least a couple of times I did become unwell. There were times when I became immobilized by worry. There were times when I experienced anxiety attacks. And there were times when I withdrew into my own head, into my own thoughts, into my own worries. May not have been evident to my colleagues or my kids at school, but it was certainly evident to my family. And I remember reaching out to a union representative when I was at a time when I would describe myself as being close to crisis, and certainly didn't want to go over the tipping point to become completely immobilized and not able to do my work or provide the support that my family needs and deserves. So through the help of a counselor and along with some personal reading and reflection, I gradually learned to challenge my own thoughts and expectations, because we spend a lot of time with ourselves. We spend a lot of time in our own head. What many of us don't have a lot of practices, and it's actually okay to ignore a lot of the thoughts that come into your head, especially the thoughts that are damaging to yourself, that are self-limiting, that are just bottom line unkind. And for me, it was a matter of unlearning patterns of thinking that made me stuck and kept me stuck, and learning new patterns of thinking, learning to challenge my own thoughts, and so I now call myself a recovering perfectionist because I continue to practice these approaches, especially during very stressful or uncertain times. But the learning that's come out of that, for me, it's with great humility and great humanity that I recognize that struggling through setbacks and working our way through failures, that is one thing that makes us all human. All humans experience those things, and so I guess in the midst of uncertainty and in the midst of failures, if you can find that little light that says, everyone's been through this, and this is part of what joins you with others, and then finally taking that step to get outside of your own thoughts and look outward to connect with others to help you through, those are the big takeaways for me.
Powerful takeaways. And you touched on just this idea of, upsetting people, of disappointing people, of letting people down. And something that I think a lot of people don't realize is that oftentimes, not all the time, but oftentimes what we perceive internally as perfectionism is actually this fear of judgment and a fear of what other people will think of us. And so often that actually comes from somewhere in our life. And it's really hard to dig into, but if you can really reflect and figure out where that comes from, you'll find out that a lot of times it's because a lot of people judge everyone. Most people do, and we do ourselves, and it becomes this pattern, which is why it just feels like no matter what we do, we're just assuming that everyone's going to judge us on it, because that's just how society works. And that's where that, when you talk about getting out of your own head and ignoring some of those thoughts, those are the ones we need to ignore. I just read something earlier, and I've heard it before about the number of thoughts the average human being has, but I can't remember what the number was. It's a massive number, but somewhere around 90% of those thoughts are negative. Now, some of that negativity is from viewing negative articles and news stories, stuff like that. But so much of it is actually negative self-talk. And if we can get past that and realize that's not actually us thinking we're not worthy, it's usually us being afraid of what someone else might say because of something someone else said at one point. We can get through that and realize that we're more than just what we do, right? And we're more than just our job title or our success level and things like that. So I think that self-reflection that you had in that is really, really powerful. I want to flip it around now and talk about a successful moment you've had. This could be something big or something small, but just tell us what happened. Why was it a success for you? And then what did you take away from that experience?
I think among the most significant professional successes that I've had actually leads to personal success as well. And that's been learning how to lead a shift away from consequential or punitive approaches to student misbehavior, and learning to look at student behavior, specifically dysregulated behavior, as evidence of stress, evidence of compounding stresses that can overwhelm kids' ability to cope. And we see evidence of stress behavior, particularly now, living, learning, teaching, and just coping with all of the stresses of the pandemic. So if you take a look at your if you reflect on your own classroom, reflect on your own school, or even reflect on who's in your household or who's in your community, learning to frame what we might call misbehavior or poor behavior as stress behavior has been a key shift for me. It has led to all kinds of personal and professional successes. So this learning and this shift's been transformative for me personally, and also for our school community. I mean, it's been tremendously gratifying to be able to help our staff members, as well as parents and caregivers, see things in new ways. It's a constant process of challenging what we see through a lens of why are we seeing this and why might we be seeing it now. It opens us up to situations where we shift away from a process of ensuring compliance or making sure students are doing X, Y, or Z, or the flip is if they're not doing it, then they're going to they're going to receive X, Y, or Z consequence, to really personalizing our responses to everybody around us, and to really reaching out to others with empathy, and just with common humanity to understand, what might this behavior, what might what I'm hearing and seeing, experiencing be telling me about a student's needs, a student's challenges, a student's stress. We recognize, if we consider that student behavior is communication, and we're seeking to understand what the behavior is telling us, we recognize that no kid or no adult, no friend, no colleague, no parent on the other end of the line wants to be in a position where they've tipped over and become dysregulated. Nobody wants to be in a meltdown. No child, nobody we know would choose that loss of control. Once we recognize that someone's lost control, we naturally, as humans, kind of want to back away, because we want to make sure we're looking after ourselves. We're protected. We're not going to be in any danger. And we also want to protect ourselves from additional stress too, because if we are, companioning someone who is in a high level of stress, it's natural for our own stresses to be raised as well. But recognizing that no one wants to be in a state of meltdown allows us to kind of become stress detectives, trying to figure out, what can I do now, or what might I be able to do in the environment to reduce stress for this kid, for this friend, for this colleague that I'm caring about, and what can I do to make it possible for them to regain control, and also to minimize the stresses that might be leading to behavior that we might have called misbehavior. So for our school journey, it's been away from behaviorist approaches of punishment and consequences to really personalizing responses to student behavior, and really maximizing all of the things that we do so well in the school community or the school classroom to try to address stresses and try to address challenges to student behavior farther upstream. So being much more proactive in terms of how we're constructing our classrooms. And I guess the bottom line is how we're prioritizing loving relationships with the people around us. If we lead with love first, and we put love out there first as our go-to, all good things will happen. And I talked earlier about becoming a recovering perfectionist, and wanting to make sure that I was avoiding situations where I wouldn't know what to do or how to respond. But honestly, the big learning for me is if you name and live your intention of putting love out there first, that's the best place to start, and that developing relationships and investing in the relationships are going to make it possible for you to help others through just about any difficulty. And the flip of that is too that once you invest in those relationships, you also build your network of people that are going to be there for you in tough times. And so that's been the key success for me, is moving that shift away from behaviorist approaches to stress-based approaches, and just sort of naming and living, my belief that putting love out there first, leading with love, is the way to go.
Brad, I love that success. I think that is such a massive thing to celebrate. But something I also appreciate about your stories, not only the ones you shared here, but really in every interaction I've had with you, is your ability, your dedication to truly see from a multitude of perspectives. I think your focus, not only as a leader and as an educator, is always trying to better understand the situation, the people involved, and find a way to lead, in a way that isn't just one-sided, that really sees every single person's perspective and takes that into account. I think that's such a beautiful way that you lead. And I've seen this modeled over and over and over again in what you share, because I think you truly put people first. And, you always have this mindset that we will find a solution, but I have to truly understand the people I'm working with, the people that are involved in this situation I'm working through, to find the best solution. And I so appreciate that about you. It's an incredibly beneficial characteristic that you possess in this area. It's so wonderful.
I truly appreciate that. Thank you.
As far as excitement, I feel like I could ask you this question. It could go a multitude of ways.
we sure could.
I'm so excited about this. But, I find you to be so wonderful to be around. You have such a wonderful personality. And I said that earlier, and I truly, truly meant it. when I'm thinking of something that could excite you, I think there's so many things, but if you had to pinpoint one thing that's keeping you excited about education, kind of what you're doing right now, what's really fueling your fire and keeping you excited?
It's the kids. It's the kids. It's always the kids. That the kids and my interactions with them and seeing them interact with their peers and with their teachers, that continues to be tremendously exciting. And recognize that a matter of months ago we weren't sure that we would be able to safely welcome kids back into our school buildings, and it's kids that have, I'm very grateful to say that have brought the joy back into our school buildings, and that also makes you recognize that the joy was always there. The kids are the reason for our joy as educators. And so, when we think about reopening or maintaining schools, whether in person or in distance learning environments or in hybrid, it continues to be the excitement of connecting with kids. That's what it's all about for me, and modeling that excitement for others makes it contagious. I mean, as school leaders, whether you're a building principal or whether you're a consultant or whether you're a classroom teacher, or in whatever leadership role you play within the school building, sharing your excitement and your delight in connecting with kids, it's contagious. And what I try and do is I when I'm walking in the halls or visiting classrooms, it's almost like I've got a radar. I've got radar tuned to opportunities to connect with kids and connect with others. And just a few minutes to notice something cool that a kid is wearing, or a new haircut, or to listen to a kid read, or to have a teacher or a staff member share something exciting that a kid has accomplished. But you can't do that and I can't do that if I'm in my office. And certainly school leaders and classroom teachers can feel really office or classroom bound. So it's opening the doors and getting out there to celebrate the excitement of the kids, and just to delight in their goofiness. And Ray, I've heard you talk so much about your affection for and just excitement about your middle school students and their goofiness. That's what it's about for me. And I can just meet the kids right where they are. I can just be goofy right along with them and build those connections day by day to the point where, just being out and about in the building is what continues to bring me personal excitement. And then it's looking back on our journey in our district, in our school building in particular, where, welcoming kids and families back to school was a significant challenge. And no one knew if we'd be able to do it safely with our own personal security and, with the confidence of the kids and their parents and the community. But we're beginning to do it. And, when I'm feeling discouraged, or when I've been feeling unsure and uncertain, I keep having to come back to my vision as principal and as educator, but also as parent and community member, and the vision of restoring our classrooms and our schools as places of refuge and safety, the place where people look forward to coming and leave feeling glad they came, even for a small reason. It's never been needed more. Our communities are full to overflowing with worry, with pain, with fear, with illness, and with stress. And so, I just invite each educator listening, each caregiver listening, to reflect on all they are doing to make their classrooms or their homes or their spaces places of refuge and safety. And if you reflect on what you're doing and commit or recommit to continuing to do that great work and to lead with love, inviting people in, that excitement can be that excitement can carry us forward through more difficult times ahead.
So true, but I have to correct you. I am very serious in the classroom. Yeah. I never goof around. I mean, just today, our mini lesson was being the best singer of Better When I'm Dancing from the Peanuts movie. I mean, we are very serious in sixth grade math. I mean, I don't know what you're referring to in terms of goofiness. That would never happen. Never.
Yeah. I stand corrected. And I'll speak with your student teacher who was a guest on the the Daily Drop-In. Yeah, I'll speak with her just to confirm that, and I think she'll say the same thing. You're as serious as they come. Yeah.
That was such a fun daily drop-in, having my student teacher drop in. That was so funny. Can you imagine student teaching during a world pandemic? That girl never stepped into the building and student taught a full semester. She's killing it.
It is such an important time for new educators to live and experience side by side what experienced educators are doing and feeling. And it's crucial that anybody hosting a new educator gives themselves permission to be as vulnerable and real with them as they need to be, because that in itself ensures that the new educator is going to feel safe, safe to mess up, safe to not know what to do, safe to experiment. And, hearing you discuss, your journey with your pre-service teacher, Ray, in terms of reassuring that no one has all the answers and that no one comes to the classroom fully prepared. Yet you have to go with where the kids are and let the kids take the lead in some point. So I remember that discussion and remember wanting to chime in and saying, yeah, we have to reassure our new educators that we believe in them and that they have what it takes along with our support.
Ugh, I love it. Well, for all of our listeners, you guys probably already listened to that episode. It was a bonus episode of Teach Better Talk podcast for that daily drop-in that happened on December 3rd, but so fun to talk with Sam. And I agree with you. I think the more we can be vulnerable and honest with our student teachers and provide as much coaching and support as humanly possible. I mean, they are the future of this field. So important. Brad, we are about to get into more mic drop moments. So I want you to mentally prepare yourself. Maybe take a breath. I don't know if you do stretches beforehand, but I know that question 5 always has to do with a piece of advice. And we say a piece of advice, and sometimes it's for new teachers, but really in this day and age, it's for any educator striving to be better. What is a piece of advice that you want to share for your episode?
I guess the biggest piece of advice is to find the good and find the fun in every day. Finding the good means practicing self-care, ensuring that you're demonstrating loving kindness for yourself. It's easy to get down and overwhelmed. So, talk to yourself like you would your best friend. Remember, we're all in a process of learning and becoming. The good is about, the positive relationships that you cultivate. They're the foundation of everything. New educators might feel there's a rush to dive into content. I'd say invest in relationships first. Some people might say connection before content. I think that's a worthy start. And over time, you can leverage those connections to grow towards connection through content, where you get to know each and every student, what makes them tick, what makes them come alive, and you can feed their soul by providing them with opportunities to learn and grow. Finding the fun means that you are willing to let yourself go, let your guard down, and just be real. Just be real with the people around you, and just find the laughter. Find the laughter in setbacks. Find the laughter in the odd moments, the funny moments, and laughter is so restorative during stressful times. I mean, laughter provides, the protection from stress. It provides the restoration from stress and worry. So find the good, find the fun in every day, and remember that new educators have much to learn, but also so much to offer.
Great advice. You do. You have much to learn, but so much to offer. So super important right there. Brad, before we jump into our 6 questions, 15 seconds or less to answer each one, I want to see, and I hope it's okay if I'm asking you this, but I know you're working on a podcast that's coming soon. Can you give us some details on that? What's it called? What's it about? When's it coming out?
Jeff, thanks. I'd love to. Yeah, it's the Good News, Brad News podcast. And I have been so fortunate to connect with incredible educators as I've begun to grow my PLN since school closure and since the pandemic. And I really want to take some time to amplify the great work that educators are doing, and particularly educators that are putting love out there first, leading with love and moving from positive intention to action. I want to talk with educators that have stories to tell about how they're seeing their intention make an impact for kids. So I'm beginning to gather some interviews in the next few weeks. and hoping to drop the first podcast episode in early 2021. And I'm so grateful, Jeff and Ray, for your, for the leadership that you model, and for the content that you create, and the way that you've allowed me to connect with so many great people to sort of fuel this interest, but also to provide great people that I can connect with. So look for and listen for good news, Brad Hughes. Good news, Brad news. There we go. Good news, Brad news in the new year.
Who wouldn't want to listen to this guy on a podcast every week? I'm just saying.
I love it. And if you're listening right now and you're thinking, ooh, I might be a good fit for that podcast, make sure you hang on and listen to how to contact Brad. Just saying. All right, Brad, let's do this thing. We're going to do the next 6 questions. Your goal is to answer each one in 15 seconds or less. You ready to go?
Ready to go.
All right. What is one EdTech tool you cannot live without?
Google everything. My favorite tool is Google Forms.
Give us a book you're reading right now.
I'm reading Thrive Through the 5 by Dr. Jill Siler.
Who should we follow on Twitter or Instagram today?
I've got my all-star, my all-Canadian 3-star selections here, Jeff. I've got Shay Cheney and Pav Wander at Staff Podcast, Livia Chan, and of course the Merit Center, the home of Self-Reg, at self_reg.
What's a good YouTube channel, website, or podcast for educators to check out?
There's huge value in the award-winning Culture podcast. That's Hans and Jennifer Apple. Define University podcast with Lindsay Titus. I love Expedition Schnekser. Becky Schnekser's narration is just so engaging, and it's just like, oh, I just love it. And of course, everybody should be checking out the Teach Better Team's daily drop-ins. Those are happening now through next Friday. I think it's December the 18th.
And give us a daily, weekly, or monthly routine every teacher should get into.
Kindness, share it. Gratitude, when you see it and feel it, just name it. And make it your daily practice to lighten the load or brighten the mood. Make that your moment-to-moment routine.
And the best piece of advice you've ever received.
You got to match your energy. And so if you're a high-energy individual like me, you've got to make sure that you're aware of your own energy and you're trying to match it to those you serve.
Wow. Did you hear all those mics hit the ground, Ray?
Yeah, so many mic drops. That's the best part of hanging out with Brad, is that you're taking notes and you're like, can you say that again? And Brad, I just tell you, your accent doesn't hurt. Let me tell you, because every time you speak, I'm like sucked in. And I'm like, and he's got a cool accent as he's sharing the information. It's true. So I'm thinking that we're going to have to share the Teach Better trophy with you. I know, Jeff, I need you to make sure you ship that over. I feel like you've been forgetting. Some people have been complaining.
Unfortunately, I can't right now. Canada's not going to let that come into the country right now. There's just a lot of stuff at the border. So Brad, you're going to have to wait until I come up personally and deliver that. And
Jeff, it would be an honor to receive that personally. To connect with you guys in person would just be mind-blowing.
Oh, we're going to make that happen. We're going to make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Jeff, I'm pretty sure the mail still works, so no excuses. Brad, I want to make sure that our listeners can connect with you, because you're even doing more than you shared in this podcast. You are constantly connecting with educators, whether it be through guest blogging or popping into the mastermind or connecting on Twitter or communicating over Voxer. You are so, so, so wonderful always to bring in new people to your network and try and collaborate and share insight with them. So would you mind telling our network how they can stay connected with you specifically?
I'd love to. It's easiest to connect with me on Twitter, Ray. It's at Brad, BRAD _Hughes, HUGHES.
And you can find all the links and all the resources and everything we talked about in this episode over at teachbetter.com, as well as those links for connecting with Brad and keep this conversation going. So head over to teachbetter.com for all that in the show notes. Be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming episodes. And if you can give us a rating and a review, we'd really appreciate that as well. And let's keep taking this one step further. Think of just 3 of your colleagues who need to hear these amazing stories and connect with these amazing educators. And just share this podcast with them. Brad, this was awesome. I'm not going to lie. I had very high expectations for you. You crushed them.
Wow.
Absolutely awesome. It was such a pleasure having you on. So glad we finally got to do this with you. Just really appreciate you taking some time to share your stories and hang out with us. Thank you.
Jeff and Ray, the pleasure's mine, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity to connect with you personally, and again to connect with the Teach Better family through the podcast. Thanks again; it's been awesome.
And now, as promised, I'm going to test your French.
Oh,
can you take us out? Can you say in French? Until next time, let's get out there and teach better.
À la suite, allons-y et enseignez mieux.